Constable Rick Edgment responded to his second call of the day shortly after 7 a.m. He was able to arrive on the scene fairly quickly because the first call of the day had taken him right nearby, just over on the next concession. Someone had reported an abandoned vehicle in the ditch. There had been no sign of the occupants. The two calls were probably related. The second was from a snowplow operator who'd found someone wandering around on the road, disoriented and suffering from exposure. Constable Edgman noted that the EMT guys weren't on the scene yet and grimaced. He'd received some basic first aid training, but that was where his medical knowledge ended. He hoped that the guy wasn't too badly messed up. Frostbite could be nasty business. He pulled up behind the snowplow and noted that the plow driver was standing out in the cold, leaning against the back of the plow and smoking a cigarette with a trembling hand. Edgman got out of his patrol car and called out, "Good morning, I'm Constable Edgman. I'm guessing you're the one who called us." He crunched closer through the plow-packed snow and added, "I gotta say, you look like a man who's wishing that he didn't get out of bed this morning. What's the story?" "Found a guy wandering around the ditch down there about half an hour ago." The plow driver's skin was deathly pallid against the dark carpet of stubble on his face. "Says his name is Jeremy or something like that. He's in the cab right now, warming up. He's hurt pretty bad. Cut and scraped all to hell, and he says he's got a broken rib. Nose like a squashed tomato on him too. On top of all that, fella's got a real bad case of frostbite all over the goddamn place. Wouldn't be surprised if he loses his nose and ears. Hell, his whole goddamn face. Hands and feet too, I bet." Edgman whistled between his teeth and shook his head. "I wish to hell people would heed the weather warnings and stay inside." He motioned up at the calm, clear sky. "Now, today's looking like it's going to be livable, but yesterday was a mean one. The guy sitting in your cab probably lost control of his vehicle in a snow squall. I was just checking out a vehicle in the ditch when I got this call, in fact. I bet he went looking for help and ended up freezing all night out here in the bush. Sound about right?" The plow driver gave him a strange look and spat out onto the road. "Yeah, something like that. Got lost in the dark, I guess. He said that he thought he was gonna die out there. He said a lot of things once he warmed up enough to stop his teeth from chattering. A lot of very peculiar things." The plow driver made a circular cuckoo motion beside his temple. "I think the boy's more than a little bit off his rocker, if you know what I mean. Well, I guess you'll see for yourself in a minute. That's why I was waiting for you out here and not in there where it's warm. Frankly, the fellow was giving me the heebie-jeebies, something awful." The cop kept smiling, but his eyes were bright and sharp. "He's not feeling quite himself, is he? Well, I'll just go have a chat with him then. Nice and easy. An ambulance will be coming soon, and they'll take him away to get some proper care. Can you wait out here for a few more minutes, sir? I'll holler if I need you for anything." A look passed between the two men, and the plow driver nodded that he understood. Constable Edgman unfastened the snap on his holster, took a deep breath, and walked up to the driver's side door of the plow. "I hope you're not going to be any trouble. Please, don't be any trouble." He clambered up into the cab and slid behind the wheel, leaving the door slightly ajar beside him. The man in the passenger seat stank. He smelled of urine and blood and the wild burnt wire stench of terrified sweat. The hood of his coat was pulled up over his head, masking his face. The man was hugging himself tightly and rocking back and forth. He didn't acknowledge Edgman's presence. There was blood on his coat, a lot of it. "Well, I heard that you had yourself a real hard night, mister." Edgman tried to keep his tone light and friendly. There's an ambulance on the way, but do you mind doing me a favor and letting me have a look at your face, sir? Just so that I can assess any damage you might have suffered from exposure. Please, I want to help you." The man slowly reached up and pulled back his hood. Edgman recoiled sharply. Oh, holy shit. They almost got me, he whispered. The man's nose was smushed over to the left and was completely black. Multiple frostbite blisters on his cheeks had recently popped, exposing large patches of raw, glistening flesh. He grinned, and the deep cracks in his lips filled with blood. I got away because I gave them Mo. They took Mo instead of me, and now he's with them in the wind. He stopped grinning, and tears suddenly spilled down his cheeks. They got Ray too. Wasn't anything left of him. That wasn't my fault, though. Not that one. You can't pin that on me, fucking pig. Edgman held up his placating hand. No one's blaming you for anything, sir. Honestly, I'm just trying to figure out what happened is all. No one's blaming anyone for anything, sir. Honestly. I'm just trying to figure out what happened. His other hand dropped to the butt of his gun, and it stayed there. Ray fell. That's what happened. He looked back. I told him not to, but he did. And he saw the faces in the snow, and then he tripped, and he fucking fell. Ray fucking tripped over his own motherfucking feet, and then... Oh, Jesus Christ, they were on him, man. They were fucking on him, and there wasn't anything left. Not really. The wind took what was left and blew it away. The man's eyes were glassy and huge. One pupil was bigger than the other. He rubbed his face with his hands, and more blisters popped. Pus mixed with tears dripped off the madman's chin. I can't stay here much longer. Dell will be coming soon. The ditch won't stop him. Nothing will stop him. Except maybe fire. Fire melts the frost, right? We have to burn him. It's the only way. Edgman saw that the guy was starting to hyperventilate. Shit, this is bad. I don't know who or what you're talking about, friend, but I can assure you that no one is going to burn anything. Not today. You need to calm yourself down right pronto, and I am not kidding you. Why don't you tell me more about what happened to you out there? How's that? What's your name? That's a good place to start. Tell me your name. He's coming back for me, you stupid bastard. Don't you get it? He'll drag me back and then they'll fucking eat me alive. He coiled to lunge for the cop. And, like magic, Edgman's .40 caliber pistol was suddenly in hand and pointed at the madman's chest. He slid out of the cab of the plow and planted his feet firmly on the hard-packed snow. Freeze. Don't move. You rest easy and keep your hands where I can see them. Do you understand me? Don't move a muscle. I've got money, the madman hissed. Lots of money. I'll give you every penny if you drive me somewhere far, far away from here. Somewhere warm. I'll give you the whole fucking bundle. I promise. Just get me out of here. Sir, you aren't well. You have to understand this. There is nothing coming to get you. Do you understand? Now, I'm telling you, I don't want to have to pull this trigger, but if you don't stay right where you are, then that is exactly what I'm going to do. I am not going to repeat myself. Stay where you are. The man crumpled in on himself and started to sob again. No, you don't understand, he said. You weren't there. You didn't see what I saw. Just take it easy and stay put, mister, and everything will be fine. Where the hell is the ambulance? It would have been nice if the boys from the fire department had shown up too. Any sort of backup would be helpful right about now. As if on cue, the plow driver poked his head out from behind the plow and shouted, You all right over there, officer? Do you need some help? No, it's under control, Edgman hollered back. Stay where you are, please, sir. Tell me if you see the EMT guys coming down the... Look! The madman screamed. They're out there in the field. They're coming. They're coming. The madman came surging out of the cab and went straight for Edgman. His last words rising in pitch like a boiling tea kettle, eyes bulging and his blackened fingers hooked into claws. There was no time to shout a warning. No time to do anything except pull the trigger. The bullets punched through the snarling man's chest and lodged into the driver's seat of the plow behind him, sending tough fragments of cushion stuffing floating into the air. The madman staggered a few weak steps forward and collapsed onto the road. He briefly tried to crawl, then was still. "What the hell, man? You shot him?" The plow driver looked on in disbelief. "Shit, this ain't good at all." "I had to," Edgman barked. His heart was racing. He had never pulled the trigger while on duty before. Never. "He was crazy. He was attacking me. What else could I do?" The cop kneeled in the snow and grimaced at the mess the exiting bullets had made of the man's back. He rolled the dying man over. The front of his coat sported 2 large, neat holes and was wet with fresh blood. Fuck. What am I even supposed to do here, really? Fucking ambulance, where are you? Edgman unzipped the man's coat and winced. The wounded man's chest resembled a crimson marshland. It was bubbling. "That boy is done for," the plow driver observed. His voice was as dry and cold as the air around them. "Heart and lungs are punctured all to hell. The ambulance ain't gonna help him out one bit. Might as well call the coroner." Edgman closed his eyes tightly. How the hell did this happen? This was going to be a very long day indeed. "You did the right thing, I guess. Look, he had a knife in his pocket." The plow operator trailed off, then said, "Hey, what's in that bag, sticking out of the guy's other inside pocket?" There was a plastic bag hanging half out of the pocket in question, tattered and blood-speckled. There was a ripped manila envelope poking out of the bag. Gingerly, Constable Edgman fished the bag out of the corpse's pocket. The envelope was full of money. The 2 men stared down at it in silence. "How much do you think is in there?" the plow driver whispered. His eyes were bulging. "Don't know for sure. Tens of thousands anyway. A lot." There was a rising wail of sirens in the distance, and the plow driver said, "The ambulance is coming. A little too late, I guess. Maybe we should..." Abruptly, Edgman pulled a thick wad of cash from the envelope and thrust it into the other man's hands. He looked the driver square in the eye and stuffed the rest of his cash into his own pockets. Then he crammed the blood-speckled plastic bag where they'd found it, and it was as if the money had never existed. "Do we understand each other? Whatever I say happened out here this morning, well, that's what happened. Get it?" The plow driver stowed away his share of the dough and nodded. "Good. He doesn't need it anymore anyway," Edgman said, nodding at the body on the ground. "I'm guessing that the money probably wasn't on its way to an orphanage or anything, so don't give it a second thought, friend." "I won't." The plow driver stepped back and watched, his craggy face dispassionate, as the ambulance came to a shuddering halt behind the cop's cruiser. He walked over to let the EMTs know that there was no longer any reason to hurry. Edgman crouched down and murmured, "Rest in peace, fella. I'm really sorry about what happened. You shouldn't have lunged at me like that." He patted the dead man on the shoulder and stood up, wincing at the twin pops in his knees. Edgman didn't feel very good about the shooting, but the money made his near future seem a lot brighter. He walked over to his cruiser and pulled a sack of orange pylons and some police tape out of the trunk. The EMTs were busy going through the motions of trying to revive and stabilize the obviously dead body, as they were legally bound to. The plow driver was holding an IV bag for them. "Don't look so dour over there," Edgman thought. "You just had a pretty good payday. Life could be worse." Edgman set about laying the pylons down on the road, taking his time with it. In a brief minute or two, he would have to get on the radio and inform dispatch of the incident, and then the shit was going to hit the fan. He exhaled heavily and gritted his teeth. It all happened so fast, in the blink of an eye. There hadn't been enough time to make another choice. In his mind's eye, he carefully replayed the final seconds of the confrontation. The madman ranting and charging at him with outstretched hands, his finger squeezing down on the trigger. Hey, what the hell? Would you look at that? Holy shit. Edgman called over to the EMTs. Hey, forget that guy. He's dead. Come over and check this out. Over here in the field. See that? A snow devil had formed, far out in the field across the road, and it was enormous. It looked curiously solid, dense, and the cop felt a vague chill run down his spine as he watched it rip across the vast field at a high rate of speed. It was coming straight towards the spot where Edgman was standing. The EMTs and the plow driver wandered over, the dead body on the road temporarily forgotten, and they watched the towering things approach with rising unease. Hey, the plow driver blinked. There ain't no wind today. How? He trailed off, and the men all shuffled closer together. None of them noticed that Jared's corpse was sitting up now. It opened its eyes. They were twin marbles of frost, dull and malevolent. It grinned and lurched to its feet. On the other side of the road, dead hands reached up from the ditch and scrabbled for purchase in the snow. A headless horror pulled itself over the edge and began to slither across the road, hands grasping and searching for warm, living flesh. Winter is hungry, and it was time to feed.